I got one more idea, and then I'm going to finish. And this is something that I brought up again and again in the book, and I did not address it in a separate section, and it was really a matter of brevity, that art is about cutting. When in doubt, leave it out. Everything that isn't really moving the argument down the field did not make it into that book. And, it's 32,000 words. There's a limit to how much I can do in that kind of space. But this is an important idea, and this of the things that we've talked about here, this is the one that is most likely to turn into an essay because it is fascinating to me. The idea is the idea of existentiality, the existential, what really happened. The existential is what really happened. And so I can say that a baseball and a baseball bat have the potential to turn into a home run if there's a ball player to swing the bat, if there's a pitcher to throw the ball, and if they connect in just exactly the right way. All of those things are potential. And so that just by itself is an exploration of the subjunctive. It is the subjunctive idea of a home run. How does a home run occur in the abstract? Well, how does a home run occur in reality? Crack, smash, wow, the crowd goes wild. All of these things really happen. And the difference between subjunctive or imaginary events and real events is a bright line distinction, that the subjunctive and the imaginary events can be interesting to consider, and they may inform us about existential reality, but what really happens is what really happens and nothing else. And so I bring up the idea of complete absence of villains in my experience of life. I just don't see villains anywhere. I see ordinary people screwing up. And people will immediately react, well, I've known sociopaths, I've known psychopaths, I've known malignant narcissists. I don't believe you. I think you probably had a prick boss who held you accountable and you didn't like it. And I know a little thing about prick bosses because I am one. But I don't think you really met somebody like that because they're extremely rare. And if you did and you survived, I want to see the scars. I want to see the wounds, because when you run into a sociopath, your chances of surviving are very slim. And if you do survive, your wounds are going to be outrageous. They're going to be huge. They're going to be, ooh. I really don't want to see them. But what I'm saying to you is, when someone says, my spouse is abusive to me, what you should say is, oh man, that's so awful. Can I see the hospital reports? Can I see the police reports? What you're listening to is an exaggeration. And when someone says, oh, my boss is a sociopath, well, this is an exaggeration. That's all it is. I mean, it's not a diagnosis. And if your boss does not come to work with all kinds of really beautiful knives and guns and ropes and things like that, your boss is not a sociopath. He's just a prick. But the important thing about the existential is that that's the only thing you can observe. It's the only thing you can experience is existential reality. And so, are there sociopaths in the world? I assume there are. I've never met one. But I'm told there are, and I believe it. Are there epileptics? I've met one in my life. There are epileptics. But they're outliers. And in the case of sociopaths or malignant narcissists or whatever, they're extreme outliers. These are people you're not going to meet in real life. Who are you going to meet in real life? Ordinary people. Like your spouse, like your family, like your kids, like your friends, like the people at work. That's who you meet. Who really exists in reality? Well, do the outliers exist? Yes, they do. There are black swans in the world. Do they matter? Almost not at all. If someone in your family has epilepsy or someone in your office has epilepsy, then you need to know what to do about epilepsy. But for the most part, you don't, because epileptics are outliers. And that's not a criticism of them. It's just a recognition of their statistical rarity. And what matters in real life is the existential, and the existential is the statistically common. It is the norm. It is normal stuff. Everyday stuff. And so, if you insist there must be villains in the world, I'm going to command you to produce one. Show me this villain. Introduce me. I have 10 good questions for anybody that I meet. And if you give me 10 questions with a real villain, I will demonstrate that that person is really a villain, or much more likely, I will demonstrate that that person is just a normal person who has some bad habits that you object to. That's it. When I talk about academics and their ridiculous theories about human behavior, human nature, what I always want to do is carry it back to the existential. I say carry it back to the object. I want to carry it back to the real object. And so if somebody says, oh, well, our behavior is controlled by our genes and there's really nothing we can do about it. If you're predisposed to be a rapist, you're going to be a rapist. And so when that academic says something like that, I want to talk to him about his daughter's first date. He's meeting his daughter's first date. She's upstairs getting dressed. Dad and the kid have a chance to get to know each other. This is Dad's opportunity to point out if that kid cannot keep his pecker in his pocket, that Dad is going to mount it over the mantle, right? That's what dads do in that circumstance. This is existential reality. This is what really happens. And if you are a pinhead who makes the argument that human behavior is determined by genes or behavior, by blood chemistry, by hormones, by your financial circumstances, any of these retarded arguments about determinism, I want to know what you say to that kid when he's going to take your daughter out. Do you say, well, son, I understand that you are who you are and you can't change your behavior, that you are baked in the cake, and it could well be that you will return my daughter in 17 pieces, but what the heck can I do? And I promise you that that asshole will not say that. This is not the way he behaves. This is not what he actually believes. And how do we know what people actually believe? Watch what they do. What you do is what you really believe. That if you read some doctrine and you say, oh, from now on, I'm going to be a vegan. People who follow through on veganism die young, and most people who claim to be vegans have a steak every once in a while, and if they didn't, they die. What you really do is what you are. What you really do is what you think. And if you or someone else is propounding some absurd doctrine, then what you need to do is you need to watch in reality to see what's really going on. What choices is this person actually making? And if their choices conflict with the doctrine, if they contradict the doctrine is false in the opinion of the person who's acting that way. That person does not believe what he claims to believe. And this is immensely useful in dealing with people because they'll show you who they are. They will be very forthcoming in showing you who they are, not in their words, but in their behavior. And so that's the issue of existentiality. I do think that at some point I will write this in essay form because it's really important and there are a whole lot of issues to be discovered in there, but I've been going on for about 25 minutes here and it's time for me to make my exit. So song. I didn't steal that song because I don't know whose song it is, but they can't make cowboy movies without that song. My name is Greg Swan. I wrote a book called Man Alive, a survival manual for the human mind, and the title is absolutely sincere. If you want to protect your mind from all of the nonsense that's going on around you in the world, you need to read that book. You can find it at selfadoration.com, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. I love your mind. I mostly don't care with what you're doing with it, but I believe you can change that. I think that anyone can master anything, that any lapse or omission or defect that you observe in your behavior and your character can be corrected. All of this is a correctable nuisance. And I think that if you do that, you will achieve amazing things with your life, that you will achieve an idea that I call splendor, which is unlimited human joy. And frankly, one of the reasons that I'm making this video is to kind of show you what mine looks like. Bless you. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. You have a great day.